high capital investment becomes underutilized due to lack of operational competence in terms of skills gap. AI, Internet of Things, geospatial and remote sensing competencies. These days, exploration, compliance and environmental monitoring are all shifting towards satellite analytics, terrain modeling and automation risk detection. And this is the new geology, if we care to know. And if we look also at the ecosystem, the digital supply chain management and local manufacturing engineering skills, this matters to us because local content success depends not just on ownership, but on technical capability to produce, repair, and integrate equipment into the system. I'll leave it here so that my fellow brothers could also add on. Yes. Abdul, your take.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would be coming from the perspective of the oil and gas industry, the upstream sector specifically. Since we are all in the extractives industry, so I'm sure I'm in the right place. So when Ghana discovered oil and gas, 2007, we had a lot of capacity gap in both the technical and the non-technical space in the industry. So immediately government took steps to sponsor, give scholarship schemes to Ghanaians who go abroad and study, and then even locally to study engineering and other disciplines. But soon, it came to the realization that it's not just the academic qualification, that matters, but we had to tailor it towards the industry. And given the heavy demands of the industry in terms of technology and capital, there was a period for adaptation, basically marrying the academic qualification to industry to make ourselves relevant. And the Petroleum Commission, through the local content regulations, LI 2204, we're very deliberate, about this skills gap issue. So we quickly identified that to bridge this gap, we needed to promote certain internship schemes and placements for the Ghanaians to be put into industry, specific job roles to develop these skills with time. And first, we were dealing with the policy, and yesterday my director, local content, Mr. Boatin, actually gave a historical antecedents of how the local content developed in the upstream sector. But we had the policy, initially, and then because it was just a policy, the industry wasn't taking it that serious, and government had to, come out with these regulations. That way, it was enacted, by Parliament in 2013, the LI 2204, and this one kind of made certain deliberate provisions in terms of the use of or the engagement of expatriates, coming into our space to work. So the law is very clear. So we give first preference to Ghanaians in all upstream sector job roles. So in the event that we don't find a qualified Ghanaian for a particular job role, then the companies are allowed to bring in expatriates. And the requirement, that follows that is that the expatriate has to hire a Ghanaian successor and place, on that role, and then train the Ghanaian and eventually localize the role, for the Ghanaian to take over. Then the other bit came into technology transfer. How do Ghanaian companies tap into the technologies of the companies? So there's a clear requirement, in the LI 2204 Regulation 47, that makes it mandatory for non-indigenous Ghanaian companies to form joint ventures. Yes, and as part of the requirements, the non-indigenous Ghanaian company has to have a clear technology transfer program that would, build the capacity of the Ghanaian to be able to play certain technical, scopes within the project that the expatriate company is coming. But we can discuss the details later. Sure. Thank you very much.
Sure, Karim. My last panelist, please. I would want to.
Thank you very much. I think there's a tactical piece to this, and there is a strategic piece to it. And the introductory speaker spoke about Apple. If you spoke to the multinationals and the tech giants, they'll tell you that 30 years ago they were in China because of cheap labor. Today they're still in China because they need certain critical skills they wouldn't find anywhere in the world. And that's why they are in China. There is general shortage of skills across the mining industry in the world. And Ghana is not different. Australia, South Africa, we do have that. So the first thing is, how do we close that gap and ensure that we continue to develop the skills that we need in our industry? Increasingly, industry wants high efficiencies and better safety in operations and everything that we do. So technology keeps advancing. The question we need to ask ourselves is, as issues like, or technologies like autonomous trucks, autonomous drills coming, digital twinning, virtual reality, creep into our industry, do we have the skill sets in our part of the world to be able to remain, important in this industry? The other one is, do we have skills to be able to contextualize data? We spoke about data science. How do we contextualize data to get the information that we need? Do we have the skills to be able to strike patterns within the information and data that we have to get the knowledge and be able to apply that knowledge to ensure that we continue to remain safe in our operations and efficient in the way we mine? And that's where I think we need the skills that you are referring to.
Thank you very much. Dr. Boateng, I come to you again. From your research perspective, how does Ghana's technical skills base compare to other mining jurisdictions? What are we doing well, and where are we falling short? From your end.
Absolutely, in the technology space, and I'll refer to the speaker who did the introduction, where he was talking about someone sitting, say, in Sydney, controlling a mine in Ghana. And without mentioning the specific mine in Ghana, I've been to a place in Johannesburg where someone sits there and controls a mine in Ghana. It's not our mine, and I don't want to mention the name. But those are our main critical skills and technology we don't have in this country. Ideally, you would want that sitting, say, in Accra. And those virtual spaces are run by Ghanaians. These are areas where we don't have the needed skills. There are other areas, and it's not at, say, an engineer's level. I'm talking technical now. When it comes to basic skills for, say, artisans, there are certain critical skills. Yesterday, I flew with someone and we're talking about some of the time we spent in places like Mali and Guinea in my past life. And someone came to mind who has got specific skills on diggers that you would not find in this country. And so you are compelled to bring such a person in country. And how do we close that gap? How do we have tailor-made, training programs that ensure that we equip our people here with those critical skills and ensure that we don't depend on other people? And even if we have to bring people in here, it will be a kind of, short interval control to ensure that we get ourselves to where we can depend on ourselves and sustainably do so.
Mr. Ayi, I would ask you the same question since you've been on the policy and regulatory space. You've been there for years, you've been at the ministries for years, you've seen mining go on for years. What do you think we've done better in terms of skills, and where are we lacking?
Thank you so much. I'm not sure it's just a matter of a lack of skills locally. The reality is that if you were to go out there globally, you'd find Ghanaians in a lot of places with these skills who could be brought down. Why don't they want to come? I think the presenter highlighted the matter of brain drain as well. If we don't have the environment to train and to retain, obviously as we train, they will migrate where they ought to go and so on. So I guess I'd want to highlight the importance of the regulator. And I think it said we indicated sort of codifying standards and so on. I started off by talking about differential levels of adoption of technology and so on. You'd find that even if you're talking about just the large-scale sector, we have a number of companies operating from different home countries who would want to use technology from their home countries. Again, given the size and sophistication of operations we have, some may not even be capable of adopting the cutting-edge technology that ought to be put in place. But they're all doing the best they can. Now, we need to have some kind of coordinating mechanism. And this ought to be by the regulator, and singling out the Minerals Commission here. I think Minerals Commission is doing a lot of this. It sponsored a lot of its inspectors, its technical guys to go learn out there and also be attached to be equipped. They ought to understand where we want to go to start with, set out the strategic path for us. Then we'd have everybody else operating in the space to fit within it. If we don't, we'll always be playing catch-up, which is where we'll have a problem. So Minerals Commission is very important here, but additional to Minerals Commission, like we said, training institutions need to be brought on board as well. So Minerals Commission needs to coordinate with the training institutions to ensure that we have an agreement of what kind of appropriate technology we want to apply in Ghana, adopt and apply in Ghana. Once we clearly set this out, and strategically, beyond just training, making sure that we retain these relevant skills. Because they're out there, and I know the Commission has gone out there to try to get some to come back. But I guess if we're talking local contents, even as we bring them, we ought to maintain them as well. And that's very important as well, I think. Okay,
Abdul Karim, you can add some few words to it then.
Yeah, thank you very much. Since Seth brought the regulators in, I'm forced to comment on this. Based on the Petroleum Commission's own strategy in terms of bridging the skills gap issue. Skills gap development is very fluid, and we have to be aware of that and see how we can manage it, because there's a high labor mobility, in industries. So one example that we had in the upstream sector is that there was a time that we didn't have any directional driller. This is the offshore space. So we managed to, get 2 Ghanaian directional drillers trained. And these people, so long as there's no activity, they always find jobs and they leave. So these 2 moved elsewhere. They're in the Gulf region now working. Now we have a rig in Ghana. We received work permit applications for expatriates to come for directional drilling. And we know that we have the capacity in country. Yet, when we contacted the people, they were nowhere to be found. They were not available. So, yesterday, the rep from Engineers and Planners, actually made mention of the fact that there are so many Ghanaian miners working outside Ghana. And in terms of the numbers, Ghana ranks among the top countries with so many expats working abroad. And I think the focus should be training Ghanaians and then putting them in the pool, and just, rather focus on the net effect. Because, it's all about resource sovereignty. So if you have resource sovereignty in the drilling space, and you know that at any point in time you have 100, Ghanaian drillers, and there's a job in Ghana for 50 drillers, and you have only 25 expatriates. Your database should tell you that you have capacity in this space, but it's just that those people are not available. So it gives room to train more people. So that's, the dimensions that, I'll stop here and then come back later. Thank you.
Mr. Koya, I'll come to you. You add up to what Abdul Karim have said, that is one. But secondly, I would also want you to share, if any, specific example of skill shortages that you have seen within our industry and how it's directly impacting the whole mining space.
All right. We operate in the engineering space. We technical services and engineering from design to construction. One of the challenges that we faced over the past few years in recruitment is that you hardly find, that for me is the biggest gap, people with applied technical troubleshooting skills, and finance literacy in the true sense. Those are old guys, you bring them in as well and then they escape. So in our company, for example, we took it upon ourselves to start training within. Fortunately, we managed to have the opportunity to be running the Heswal Ashanti Goldfields training pool. So what we do these days is that in fact, since 2022, we've been taking young guys from the school and them. We are in our third batch right now. The university, both UMAT and KNU, bring their students who get those practical skills. I think that in terms of skills gaps, those are the things. In preparing for the future of the AI and all those things, I think there are some critical shortages right now that I think if we can improve on, like simple PLC and instrumentation technicians. It used to be a thing for only electrical engineers and stuff like that, but with data analysis and things coming, sensor data analysis and things, we think we need to inculcate this training across the technical skills within mining space, so that when data then comes on, AI comes on, they have some logic to do. I'm not an expert in AI and things, I don't like talking about that one, but I have realized that basically we don't have a standard way of measuring or training mine technical people, and I think that is important because AI will come today. If you cannot digitize incompetence, so we must first standardize competence within our system and have a way that we train people to be ready for what we have today. Those same people plus those same systems that we put in place would adapt to take on the AI and stuff when they reach it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asante. Just a quick one. We've been talking about technical skills, but one important thing that we need to know is soft skills. What adaptive soft skills or capabilities will be essential as a sector and as we continue to digitize? So I'll be happy if you can touch on soft skills.
I think our earlier speaker and the gentleman from Mantrak also touched on those. So I would rather zoom into the research gaps that these soft skills and hard skills have created and the deficiencies that they create. If you look at CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, it is the foremost scientific organization in this country with 13 institutes. Our national mandate explicitly prioritizes innovation, technology, transfer, and training to drive socio-economic development. We don't lack researchers and scientists to help us. What we lack is the disconnect with industry. And for that, government has therefore established Commercialization Directorate to accelerate this translation. If we look critically at the gap between research capabilities and the practical industry skills, the strategic imperative of Ghana having strong scientific research capabilities across our industries, yet technology uptake and commercialization have historically been limited. We have weak linkage between our institutions. Even among academia and research, we seem to have turf wars. If you look at for example, some of the root causes, structured separation of scientists from the industry, engagement mechanisms between universities and research institutes, for example, and then limited commercialization platforms. These are key. If you want to look at some of the soft skills, AI-driven skills, very, very important in the scheme of things, because AI now is used for exploration and other things. If we look at the impact solutions, establishing sector-focused translation labs, for example, is quite very key. I will leave that for now and then come back to it at another session.
Thank you very much. This question will go to Doc and Abdul, but I want Doc to tackle it first. Doc, you know that when you look at schools here in Ghana, that is University of Ghana, UNAIR, and then KNUST, where geoscience is being studied, and then you look at UMAT, where mining is being studied. What innovative training programs do you think all these schools would need to bring on board to have a successful accelerated technical capacity building, which would definitely impact on local content when it comes to skill transfer and technology from where we sit? You start first, and then Abdul will come in.
Okay. Because you mentioned Doc, so
No, that's fine.
So let me quickly say that we need to have a collaboration between industry, between original equipment manufacturers and our academic institutions. I haven't seen a structured system where we make a deliberate attempt to say that we have design models that train people in specific skills that are required in the industry. I've seen it elsewhere. We don't have it. And I think that's where it starts. Because then we can go back and look at the relevance of the models we've put together and how they meet present needs, how we upgrade them and review them, going into the future, and make sure that they remain relevant and also meet requirements of new technology that comes into our industry and into this country. And I believe that that's where we need to start. Yesterday I was thinking about this a lot, and one of the thoughts that came to mind was that there is no way we can do this playing in silos. We need people like Seth, who is, say, delivers services to the mining companies, providing training services. We need people like my good friend from Mantrac, who brings technology and new equipment into this country. We need people at UMAT, and then those of us in industry to come together to say that these are our needs. This is how we can bring original equipment manufacturers on board, and how do the academic institutions help us to put models together to meet our needs. I can cite one example. We've been talking about artisanal small-scale mining, for instance, how we do that safely and sustainably going forward. And that's probably a little different from what we're discussing here, but the way to provide thought leadership and put practical solutions on the table is for us as major players in the mining industry to collaborate and work closely with academia and help government to provide solutions. So we need that kind of collaboration.
Thank you. Abdul.
Thank you very much. So, from the perspective of the Commission, I'll just share, some few lessons. I mean, when we talk about skills gap analysis, and to the extent that technology transfer come in, to plug this gap, is to unbundle the whole, discipline of technology transfer, to look at certain specific, milestones within each, or certain, the different dimensions of technology transfer, so that we can target, it appropriately to get the maximum impact. So from the perspective of Petroleum Commission in terms of technology transfer, plugging the skills gap, we have 4 different facets of technology transfer. We look at the software, which the presenter, Francis spoke about, and then we have the hardware. Then we have the skills development itself, and also the capacity building of the local partners, in joint ventures. So basically, this in terms of organizational development. So when we have joint venture arrangements, between Ghanaians and foreign partners, we kind of require that they submit a technology transfer program that is tailored towards the project that the joint venture is executing. And within that technology transfer program, there's a requirement, for the foreign company to support the indigenous company to, acquire certain technologies. And when we talk of technology transfer, mostly the focus is more on the skills development and also on the hardware. Because the software aspect, there are a lot of proprietary rights, that protects or prohibits that transfer. So, and, the organizational development component of it mostly has to deal with the certifications that the foreign companies would normally have. That gives them the competitive advantage and the capacity to do those contracts. So in terms of the skills gap or the capacity gap, we look at it in 2 ways. So both at the Ghanaian, entrepreneurship aspect and then the individual aspect. So the entrepreneurship aspect is where the company has a requirement, to plug the gap that the indigenous Ghanaian companies don't have, so that they build their capacity to be able to execute scopes. Then when it comes to the individuals themselves, then like I said, skill set is transient. There was a moment that we didn't have, derrick men, for instance, on oil rigs, drilling rigs. And we just had, the starting point as roustabouts, and then we had a lot of, work permit applications coming in, as expatriates to expatriate derrick men and expatriate floor hands, floor men. So we took a deliberate step, to build the capacity of Ghanaians, to put them, as successors to these expatriates, to train them, in this space. So what I'm driving at is that Minerals Commission, I've seen the act, and then I think they also have a provision to build a database of Ghanaian skilled workforce. So it's something that they have to be deliberate about and look at the movement, because it's constantly shifting. So as it's shifting, then you have to be training people to plug the gap, and then, them looking at the higher rules that the expatriates come into.
Thank you very much for touching on the industry technology transfer. Let's come back to industry-academia collaboration. And again, I would come to Mr. Ayi, because he's still be in the regulatory space. Currently, how would you characterize the state of collaboration between mining companies and educational institutions? And this side, I would want you to look at it on a holistic view, where mining is simply UMAT, and then you have the other geoscience courses from the University of Ghana, KNUST, UDS, and UNED. Thank you.
Thank you much. I guess the speaker up front tried to distinguish between the hardware and then the soft skills and so on. But I guess you need a blend of the two to get it going. Maybe let me use an analogy. In the late 80s into the 90s, we had sort of the mechanization drive, where we had skilled artisans who decided not to migrate into mechanization. And they were left high and dry because mechanization took place and we moved forward. As we speak today, we're talking about the mining 4.0 era, where we're talking about how can we optimize operations to improve productivity and so on. So if you don't get to learn these soft skills, then you'll be left behind. Unfortunately, and I want to emphasize the fact that there is the distinction between operators as far as home country is concerned, and it's very important. You'd find that training gets to be done within their own arrangements individually. And sometimes interoperability is a big issue that needs to be addressed as a country. I think the speaker also talked about transferability of skills. So it's not just about the mining sector. Mining sector ought to train, we ought to train for our particular operation, but then can these guys who are trained get to move on to other operations, even within the sector? Beyond that, they don't have to be restricted to the mining sector because these skills are quite easily transferable. So that's where the regulator ought to be interested in. And the regulator being interested in that cannot on its own get this implemented. That's where collaboration with academia is important. Again, collaboration with the accreditation authorities, such that we get to be very knowledgeable. Coming to the table ignorant about these will shortchange us. So the regulator itself ought to be capable, understand these things, work with industry, work with academia, work with the accreditation authorities to ensure that as a country, we know which path we want to go. And that's where it is important. A lot of the contribution that has been there. Another comment I quickly want to make is that, and these are all more the entrepreneurial sort of collaboration to ensure that we get local content to that. The internal training is taking place in the mining sector. And that's how come we have the migration and so on that gets to go on. So the entrepreneurial bit is very important between entities. How do we synchronize the capacity building to the point that there is transferability of these skills and ensuring that we are ready to even move on to the next phase of technology adoption as a country?
Thank you very much. Mr. Kwe, before you add up to what Mr. Aya said, I would want you to add this question to it. Are we seeing any tangible, meaningful partnership between academia and industry? And if it's yielding any tangible results in terms of skills and technological transfers?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I was trying not to sound like I'm advertising, so I didn't start with that. But at our Back Partners Training Institute, I'm sure there are mining companies here who would testify that we have tried to blend industry requirements into our curriculum. And we have also partnered with both UMAT, which is formally and officially. We have an MOU with them where we input into their training practically and they input into our own with principles and engineering, same as UMAT and UST, sorry. And we have created this technician apprentice to career training program. As the name implies, it is both classroom training, practical, and then on-site training, where we have this alliance with our customer base, which is the mining companies. We train them in our workshops, practically oriented curriculum, and then they get to spend up to 6 months in working environments to learn and understand. I think the collaboration is working well, and in fact, yesterday I was actually speaking to the Vice Chancellor of UMAT that we, based on some comments that were made here, I think we need to engage the regulator more. In fact, in 2014, we wrote a proposal on training standardization within the mining space, based on the industry and academia collaboration, that we could even develop, just like the South Africans have, and I think Australia have too, a mining qualification authority, which is probably vested or hosted by MINCOM or Chamber, whichever it is, but that ensures that training standards are up to date with what the industry demands. Okay, it can be then accredited to institutions to run, so that every training that a Ghanaian mining professional goes through is clearly definable, attestable, and can be upgraded with time. Every so often you go for a refresher to improve. If you have that base and new technology come, then you have something to build on. And we must remember as well, digitization will come, but if it means an indisciplined workforce or indisciplined students, it wouldn't work. So that's touching on the soft skills that you talked about. There are things that we need to impact into this generation of new learners: critical thinking, workplace discipline, and all those things. Once those things are there, I mean, it becomes a foundation that you can build on. So this is something that with the regulator between UMAT and institutions within the practical space and the mining operations themselves, we can scale it up and it becomes a national framework for technical training.
Thank you. You've touched a bit on the next question I want to ask, but Mr. Asante would come in and Mr. Asante, what specific mechanisms or structures could be strengthened the partnership between mining companies and educational institutions to develop a skilled labor pool for our mining sector?
Great. The Ghana Research and Industry Collaborative GREC, which is a national collaborative platform, has been established to bridge the gap between research and mining companies, industry stakeholders, to unlock innovations-led development through structured engagements. We also look at innovation hubs and skills-driven interfaces, which CSIR and other academic institutions are helping the ecosystem with. We also look at engineering and energy sector and the mining sector partnerships. We also have to look generally at the benefits that these collaborations will bring for the industry, access to skilled graduates, research experts, and low-cost innovation pipelines, and opportunities for technology transfer. But here, again, a lot of our technologies, local technologies, have not been protected in terms of intellectual property, patents, and what have you. And if you don't own something, you cannot sell it, you cannot transfer it. So that's a critical key area that we are looking at, and we've looked at, for example, with IP policies and the nation as well coming up strategically with one, so that we can demonstrate ownership of our technologies and in turn sell it. But there are persistent challenges, weak interaction between the private sector and research institutions here in Ghana, limited innovation, financing, and as well as lack of industry depth, leaving graduates. We have graduates who are available, but they are not practically ready for the work. Not to look at the doom and gloom, we also have emerging opportunities. We have structured consortia, shared laboratories between CSIR and other universities, and a lot of collaborations going on. But we still employ that. I think it behoves us researchers to also approach the industry. If Mohammed won't go to the mountain, the mountains must go to Mohammed.
You are right on that one. For my last two panelists, currently, when you look at the curriculum that we have in our universities, would you think we should look at more apprenticeship models? We should look at more industry-embedded faculty? Or do you think we should look at something that is entirely different from what I have mentioned?
So first of all, just to touch a little bit on the collaboration bit, I think first of all, it's not structured, at best it's sporadic and random, and therefore we need a structured approach towards that. And how do we do that? We see systems that have been developed over the time I started work in the mining industry up until now, and these technologies and systems that have been developed are all over the world, and I can talk about them from how we manage mining trucks and load and haul all the way to the plant. The question you would ask yourself is, how does industry maybe incentivize research work that is tailored to meet certain needs in industry, or to remove certain bottlenecks in industry? And these days, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, there are already building blocks that you can build on, but there has to be a deliberate effort from industry to say that let's partner academia in this research area, and we know that that solution is going to help industry. I always say that we are ahead of our other countries in the sub-region. Anything we are able to develop in this country can quickly move from here to Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Mali, and before they wake up, we will be way ahead. And that's what we need to do. There are specific, even if you move away from technical stuff and you come back to things that have happened in the mining industry, and you ask yourself, people who go and take MBA programs at Legon and other institutions, how many of those cases they do are written here from things that have happened here in Ghana and in the industry that others can learn from? And that is where the focus should be. We have to be deliberate about it, otherwise we're not going to make progress.
Thank you very much. Abdul, if you can touch before I would ask my last round of questions and open for our audience to ask their own questions.
Thank you very much. So, there's a close link between research and development and technology transfer. So, to the extent that the Petroleum Commission has kind of engaged in this space of bridging the gap, tailoring, academic institutions' curricula to industry standards, and we have the mandate to develop what we call the R&D guidelines. I mean, the law says that the industry should kind of undertake R&D, that will be tailored towards addressing certain peculiar problems in the industry. So in doing that, it's very, I would say, nebulous in the sense that there's no clear pathway, to R&D. So we try to narrow it down to say, okay, how do we support educational institutions to undertake projects that will be relevant to the industry? And considering the fact that the Commission is a regulator, we are not actually operating in an oil field. So we kind of play that facilitation role. Then quickly, the industry, in terms of the operators' side, they came back to us to say that, hey, it's up to academia to approach us, to tell us what they can do for us, and then we can sit with them in Jojo and agree on something that is tangible for the industry. So they threw the challenge back to academia, in terms of coming with the solutions. So what the Commission now does is that we just kind of facilitate the partnership or the collaboration between the academic institutions and industry, to see what can be done. And the recent case was an issue of, I think, flow assurance on the Jubilee field. Some wells were clogging and were not producing as much oil as they should. And Tallow, to be specific, I think they contacted KNUST, to come up with certain proposals or, R&D interventions, that could support to kind of improve on the flow assurance. So that is where we come in. So we basically just brought the two institutions together to, go ahead in terms of implementing what they had to do. So that is it from the PC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My last question.
If I may add a little bit to his before. That is why CSIR has now created a commercialization division and a technology development and transfer center, wanting research to be industry-led, not we writing papers for promotions and all that. For example, there have been collaborations between CSIR Building and Road Research Institute with some mining companies, collaboration between CSIR Water Research Institute, where you have scientists for underground water, surface water, whatever you want about water. CSIR Animal Research Institute, looking at the biodiversity, how mining is impacting, how we can recover, and even CSIR Oil Palm Research Institute and Crop Research Institute now even looking at using rubber to reclaim Galamsey sites, because rubber would not have, we are not going to consume rubber, as a diet, but used for other derivatives. So we are open for collaboration. There are 13 different institutes in CSIR, and we would love to have a conversation with you so that our scientists and technologists can do research that are industry impactful and relevant to our mining industry.
Thank you very much. I think this discourse has been very great, and I would want to tell all mining companies, all support services companies, that the universities are there. That is UMAT, you would have University of Ghana, you would have University of Development Studies, you would have UNAIR, you would have research institutions like CSIR. They are all open, their doors are open. Please ensure that when they come to you, because what I have seen practically being in the educational space is that the industry would not come to us. But when we also go to them, most of the times they close their door to us. I think this is something that ought to change. And we have to make a deliberate effort to ensure, because if you don't tell the company, if you don't tell the academic institutions or the research institutions what your problems are, then it means we are all fine from where we sit. So I think that door should be open and we'll have that conversation.
Prof, does that also bring this third side of the coin?
Yes.
Because we've been looking at the two sides, industry, academia. What about the third side of the coin? I don't know the answer yet. Is it the regulators to play that role to make sure, or Greek?
Yes, the regulators have a lot of roles to play. And my next submission was going to go to the ministry, because the ministry is here, Minerals Commission is here. We have R&Ds in our legislative instruments, but it is something we have not really looked at it critical. And I think because the law is good and it opens doors for research work to be made, but how are we using that segment of the law to ensure that the academic institutions as well as the industry have that partnership from where we sit? To my audience, the floor is open, and we would want to have two questions from you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm Aziz Kamara, and my question is not really a question, but also to look at some of the gray areas in the discussion. That has to do with commercialization of some of the research work, which some sponsors, or be it government agency, be it the regulator, how do we commercialize them? Now, if we don't push it to the commercial level, then the challenge will be that it will be in the archives. Meanwhile, somebody sitting elsewhere in a different country, because the government has an interest in it, they will try to commercialize it, make it more popular, and then the same solution which we probably would have had in-house will now turn around and come. And since some of the mining operators, the companies, they have affiliation with their home country, they are able to bring the technology in very easily. And so there should be that conscious effort from all stakeholders to see how we can commercialize some of this research work which is sitting on our archives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is George Pinsel from Ford Logistics. I have a number of them, not really questions, but more like contributions. Following from Aziz's point, I think that, when we look at the universities, I attended UMAT. The research works that we do, most of them lie up probably in the library, right? We don't have anything coming out of them. But when you look at institutions, maybe in outside, US and all that, we even have Ghanaian lecturers who are in the universities out there. There are projects that are funded, right? And these are industry-related projects where you know that the impact of it to the industry is so important. Perhaps, from those from academia, you can be looking at this where rather than just random topics from students and they end up in the libraries, practical, very impact-oriented topics will be given, directed by maybe a lecturer, right, that has solution for a mine or a problem in the country. Some of these things probably will help us to be able to implement and really have results from all these things that we are discussing. The other point I also want to make, I think Mr. Ben Abu, I don't know, the first speaker, Benai, yes, you made a point that we have the resources, right? And then I think the petroleum man also said it. And then you build them, and then they are lost. It's only because after they have been built, they don't have the platforms to be used. So definitely, if I'm being redundant, I'll find work elsewhere. And you said we are fluid, we move. So once I'm not having the platform to operate here, definitely I'll find my way somewhere where my use will be needed. So I think that it's like probably learning French or Russian. If you don't get the space to speak it, you probably forget it. So this is where we also have to look at it, where whatever we train, we give them the platforms to also build themselves. Tying in with even the brain drain and all that, we see that a lot of the softwares or the skills that we learn, they are in silos. Excuse me, Newmont would have some software that they use, AngloGold, they have a software that they use, and there are plenty. Perhaps MINCOM should be looking at it at a very strategic level and look at really what is required of us here in Ghana. What do we need? And then train people accordingly so that everybody who is coming out, maybe from the mines or as a geologist or the surveyor, there are certain basic things that you have, you know. Else it becomes more like they're in silos and all over the place. Perhaps we...
Thank you very much. I think we have the CEO of Chamber of Mines who want to comment, and probably the CEO of Minerals Commission would also want to comment. Then we can.
But before they comment,
yes,
the two comments.
Yes.
Academia research. Our biggest challenge is publish or perish. I think we need a mind transformation rather than a mindset change. With our counterparts in Asia, for example, one patent is equivalent to a PhD dissertation, i.e., meaning being able to have one technology patented is equivalent to you doing a dissertation for PhD. They have always begun with the end in mind. It is now time for us as a country in academia and research also to look at our promotional trajectory, not to only focus on publications, but rather linking to patents. Because it is sad to say that most of our institutions cannot boast of 100 patents. And if you don't own something, you cannot sell that thing. Commercialization does not even come in. And it is your intellectual property that helps. The publication, how it damages us is, in IP, you look at prior act, novelty, the thing must not be in the public domain. So we need to do that. And we are also creating the indulgence of industry to help strengthen the technology transfer offices within the academia and research institutions to help us. When you go abroad, most of these companies do come
to the universities established or the research institutions, and also get some of our scientists to help with your R&D departments. We could collaborate in that instance.
Thank you. I think we are short of time, so we'll get them to comment, and then we'll have a last round, and we'll end the session.
Thank you very much. I think before I do my commentary, there are some things that we need to start celebrating. There's some things already. Take an intern. And as you take the intern, one of the things you're doing is you're providing your facilities as crucibles and as laboratories to be able to, some of the theories that are happening, to be able to deal with them. We also need to start getting academia to leave their high horses and know that they should be able to come into industry to do internships from the faculty level. Maybe we don't call them internships, but we get them to also come, because in that process, their theory rubs on us in industry, and then we also rub on them, and they find what the problems are. And then we create opportunities for industry players to also come into the faculties to be able to teach. So this thing, it's one of the things that I'm hoping that together with the Honorable Deputy Minister being here and Menkom being here, we take an action on it to say, what are the things we are going to do after? And with the commitment of everybody here, we as industry, we need to open up our spaces for this thing to be able to happen. Otherwise, we keep on talking about them. I remember when I was managing director of graphics, it's one of the conversations we had, and so look at that 2017, we're still having that today. And especially when it comes to the local content space, there's a lot of opportunities for internship, even at that level. And for you faculty, you need to start telling your students, it is not internship only at Goldfields. It's not internship only at Newmont and all of that. You can go do internship at even a small scale mine, which is there because you've set the assignment for the person to go and solve a problem there. And how are you rewarding the student? How are you also rewarding faculty to say that you have solved a problem that exists at that particular level? So again, the incentives even for the students, incentives for faculty is important, and then incentives also for industry. So what tax breaks are we giving to industry, for example? If you've taken some number of interns, either from faculty or from the student level, to be able to solve a problem. So I think we need to start using the challenges that we face as opportunities for us to solve our problems, and in the process be able to market them.
Thank you. A last comment from the CEO, and then we can wrap up from there.
Thank you, and good morning. We are also collaborating with you, Matt. So we've given them 2 concessions. We've explored for them. We're going to give them leads for them to set up proper small-scale model mines that we can look up to and also study to try and spread them across. My comment would be the conversation is too much. Let's move to the next level and take some action. Until we start, we will not be able to fine-tune it. I mean, I always take China as an example. There were too many things. I mean, in the past, if you get anything from China, you think it's not good. But today, we all believe that they moved to the next level because they started. They put in the work. They put in the effort. So for me, let's put in the work, and then I think we can get somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To my panelists on stage, I think we want to wrap up, so I'll give each and everyone 2 minutes for your final comments so we can conclude. Mr. Benai.
Okay. I'll go back to my emphasis on the regulator, but probably even broader than that, with the end in view. Ghana as a country ought to decide where we're going with technology and all that. So again, we cannot operate even as a sector in a silo. We ought to be interfaced with the industrial sector, the trade sector. And if we can do that with that end goal, then even as we pursue technology and technology transfer and all that, to the end that mining is going to end at some point in time, what technologies, what new things do we bring to the table which will benefit the country as a whole? That's the first point I want to make. Now, coming back to our sector, again, the emphasis on the regulator, I think it's so critical. to define that strategic goal we want to achieve. The chief executive says we need to act. We truly need to act. Again, I keep emphasizing that the regulator needs to come to the table from the point of view of knowledge rather than ignorance. So it ought to get its guides trained so well that they understand these technologies out there and be able to guide industry and to bring together all the relevant stakeholders to the table, academia for one, industry players, researchers, to ensure that we define clear standards as to what kind of technology we want to adopt. Because, I mean, like I kept saying, because we have a number of companies from different home countries, each of them is trying to push its home country technology, and sometimes may not be suitable for us. Again, issues of interoperability, connectivity, are so critical that we need to be sure that what we adopt is such that we can connect them, not just for mining, but for the bigger development of our country. If we can do that, we'll achieve a lot. And so I encourage the Minerals Commission, I know they are doing a lot in that respect already. I want to encourage them to take it up seriously. And we can make
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'd like to first say that local content will be meaningless without the deliberate development of the human capital that would do that. So that is the first place. Secondly, I have survived 3 Mincom CEOs with one proposal. I thank God that Isaac stands here and says that we move to the next level. And Ken knows what I'm talking about. I have a proposal on training since 2021. It's been through Mincoms and it's been discussed. I was given verbal why we would do it, and I've brought it to Sule, previous chamber CEO, helped push it for a while. Ken is trying to push it right now. In fact, it incorporates all what we talked about. And the preamble of it was exactly what Ben ended with, that we have so many mining operators from different countries with different ideas that they are doing training, but it is so different. Why can't we find the best practice along that and standardize it? And that is my proposal. I'm meeting the CEO next week, so that is the agenda. I'm trying to put him on the spot because he said we're moving to the next level. Next year when we come here, we don't talk about training, but we talk about what you have achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would end by saying action, action, action. They say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step, but I say in the right direction. The next competitive advantage in Ghana's mining industry will not be ore grade, it will be human capital grade. So let us focus on it, not only for our market, but to develop the human capital to the extent of exporting them out so that we can earn more for our country. And CSIR, we are open for collaboration. All our institutes, please let us speak, let us act, and move Ghana forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I would conclude by saying that training comes at a cost. Who bears the cost of training? And that is what we should focus on. If you leave the cost of training to industry alone, we can't move as fast as we aspire to move. So we have to come up with some innovative ways to support training. And I'll give you an example. Petroleum Commission, having realized that there were so many expatriates coming into the country to do welding, then we ask ourselves, we have so many welders in the country. Why are we bringing in expatriates to do welding? So then the reality dawned on us that the industry requires certain standardization and certain specialized certifications, which is international. So do we start from? So what the PC did was that we sponsored some lecturers from TTU, Takoradi Technical University, and then Kikam Technical University, Koforidua Technical University, and Tamale Technical University, and Regional Maritime University, to go to Canada and Singapore to be trained and certified as international welding trainers. So these people, there are 22 of them. They are back in country. The next phase for the commission is to build a welding center of excellence in collaboration with TTU. So we have an MOU with TTU, and it's going to cost about somewhere around $5 million. We supported with a feasibility study. The commission committed about $90,000 to do feasibility, and that is done. Right now, we want real money to actually go into the facility. We have a new CEO. She came in, and then our finances are not looking too good. So the new direction is to have a collaboration with the mining industry. And it's good that the CEO of Mincom is here. Some proposal has already gone from our sector minister to, their sector minister. And then I'm sure in no time we would come together to see how we can build this international welding center of excellence, where we can train Ghanaian welders for the industry, because the mining industry even utilizes more welders than oil and gas. Yes. But we just identified this as a gap and seeing how we could use our resources to support. So thank you very much.
So please, you can have your
Thank you very much. So I'll start off by saying that we need to incentivize training and follow that up with the fact that skills development is key to our success, but also making sure that we have the structures in place to ensure that we meet new innovations and technology that is coming in, and we continually develop our skills, retool what we do here to meet the demands of the industry is key. Having said that, the one thing I want to mention is that building capacity in the mining industry should be looked at, and that's where the strategic piece comes in. How do we leverage that in other industries? Because it doesn't matter how we look at it, mining underpins construction, energy, and manufacturing in this country.
You're right.
And that's what we need to look at. When it comes to research work, patenting, and commercialization of research work, what we need to know is that there will be failures, but we need to have the patience and the endurance to ensure that we are successful over the long haul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to say a big thank you to all my panelists for doing justice to this topic. Thank you.
CEO wants to make
How may I help you today?
We'd like to open a bank account.
Sign here, sign here, sign here, and here. And now you draw direction to your house. I need your thumbprint. And I'll need your birth certificate too. No, I need the original.
A lot has changed since you banked like this. So have we. We've made it easier than ever to open an account online and bank on the go through our mobile app, online banking, and more. EcoBank, a better way to bank your way.
Sign here, and here.
EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, Ghana. Are you ready for the JoyNews Impact Makers Awards 2026? The time is now. Nominations are officially open. Yes, who is that community hero in your corner? Who is that selfless individual bringing hope, dignity, and smiles to your community? Do you believe he or she deserves a national or even global recognition? Then don't wait. Send us a link or short videos and pictures showcasing the works of your impact maker, together with a one-page write-up detailing how this ordinary person is making life better for you and your community. Email your nomination to impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com. Remember, it's strictly one nomination, one entry per person. So make sure the nominee is your best. Nomination closes on 28th of February 2026. This is your chance to put the spotlight on a community champion making real impact. Don't miss it. JoyNews Impact Makers Awards, celebrating ordinary people making extraordinary impacts.
Watching DSTV means getting the TV you love, but staying connected means getting something extra. Stunning. Extra matches, extra dramas, the best local and the world's biggest. Extra laughter, music, movies, and extra vim.
I love it.
Just stay connected or reconnect and get upgraded to the next higher package at no extra cost. Charlie, we got you. Keep watching. Get more with DSTV.
Hello, Ghana. Are you ready for the JoyNews Impact Makers Awards 2026? The time is now. Nominations are officially open. Yes, who is that community hero in your corner? Who is that selfless individual bringing hope, dignity, and smiles to your community? Do you believe he or she deserves a national or even global recognition? Then don't wait. Send us a link or short videos and pictures showcasing the works of your impact maker, together with a one-page write-up detailing how this ordinary person is making life better for you and your community. Email your nomination to impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com. Remember, it's strictly one nomination, one entry per person. So make sure the nominee is your best. Nomination closes on 28th of February 2026. This is your chance to put the spotlight on a community champion making real impact. Don't miss it. JoyNews Impact Makers Awards, celebrating ordinary people making extraordinary impacts.
All bets on sports. High odds. Fast payout. Bookmaker Company.
Its rollout in January 2023, the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that it incurred losses of 317 million Ghana cedis in 2023 and some 1.82 billion Ghana cedis in 2024 under the Gold for Oil program. That brings the total losses to some 2.14 billion Ghana cedis in over 2 years. The central bank says that it injected 4.69 billion Ghana cedis into the program, effectively losing 45% of its working capital, or the capital it actually deployed in effort to stabilize fuel prices and then also to support the city. Now let's break this down further. On March 13, 2025, the Bank of Ghana officially ended the Gold for Oil initiative, citing heavy financial losses sustained as the primary reason for shutting it down. Now, Gold for Oil was actually introduced in December of 2022 in response to surging fuel prices, with diesel retailing as high as 23 cedis per litre, and petrol, you recall, was around 17 and 18 cedis at Goil stations in November of 2022. A sharp cedi depreciation and the rapid depletion of foreign reserves forced the government and the Bank of Ghana to try an alternative strategy, that is, use gold and not dollars to purchase petroleum products from the international market. The logic behind the program was very simple. Ghana needed a workaround to its dollar shortage that wouldn't further drain the bank's reserves or worsen its currency depreciation. The goal was to ease pressure on the cedi by preserving scarce foreign exchange reserves. Ghana spends about $400 million each month importing fuel or fuel products, making it the major driver of dollar demand in the country. Reducing that pressure, even partially, was central to the program's logic. The bank had already launched a domestic gold purchase program in June 2021, partnering with the then Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, now rebranded as a Gold Board, to buy gold ore from local miners in cedis and then refine it abroad for Ghana's official reserves. The aim
enterprises and strengthen community trust. When SMEs are excluded from procurement opportunities, unemployment rises. Where unemployment rises, Galamsey become attractive. One of the most effective strategies for host communities development is the local procurement model. Local procurement model refers to the deliberate procurement approach where specific categories of works and services are ring-fenced for qualified community-based contractors and suppliers operating within the mining operational areas. This model ensures that mining procurement creates rare economic opportunity for host communities, reduces youth unemployment, and strengthens local entrepreneurship. Local procurement should not be treated as a CSR initiative. It should be recognized as a strategic tool, a strategic local development tool aligned with national local content objectives. Ghana has a proven example of local procurement. Local procurement can work effectively. Nimon Ghana Gold Limited has demonstrated a strategic local procurement approach in the Aho operational area. Through this model, community-based contractors have been given consistent opportunities, which has enabled them to grow steadily over time. This approach has strengthened the local economy, created jobs, and improved community trust. A practical example is Alexibom Company Limited, which started as a local contractor within the Nimon and Afro South operational area. Through consistent procurement opportunities and capacity development pathways, the company has grown into a recognized national contractor. This example demonstrates that local procurement is not only about giving local contractors small contracts, it is a structured pathway for building national Ghanaian contractors who can compete across the mining sector. The association therefore recommends that Ghana's mining local content framework should encourage all mining companies to adopt a local procurement system similar to Nimon's model. In conclusion, the association believes that Galamsey is driven largely by poverty and unemployment. Many young people enter illegal mining because it provides quick income. Therefore, enforcement alone cannot solve the problem. The most sustainable way to reduce Galamsey is to provide alternative livelihood, and local content is strongest pathway for that. When procurement is localized and SMEs are supported, more youth gain employment, local businesses expand, income increases, and illegal mining becomes less attractive. Local content should therefore be considered a national anti-Galamsey strategy. Thank you, Nananong. Thank you, Honorable.
So that was the Association of Local Contractors and Suppliers within the mining industry sharing a solidarity message on the subject of local content. I just noticed that we also have with us, right from yesterday and still here with us, Her Excellency the Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana. All right. Please give it up for Her Excellency Miriam Montrat. Thank you very much. Truly grateful, truly grateful. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we go into our second panel session for this morning, and that will be on the subject or the theme of supply chain and procurement vis-a-vis value addition and manufacturing. Respectfully, would like to invite Mr. Clifford Edu-Baini, a business transformation and strategic supply chain management consultant. He would come up and serve as moderator for this session, and would invite, of course, his panel members who would constitute the team. It was originally meant to be an hour-and-a-half session, but I am sure that they can be effective in delivering it within an hour, so we can be on time for our mid-afternoon break. So respectfully, Mr. Clifford Edu-Baini. Are we missing Mr. Edu-Baini? Oh, okay. Please give it up for Mr. Edu-Baini as he joins us up on stage. And I probably would call out his panel members to make their way up as well. We also have Madam Ajua Bwedu, Senior Supply Chain Management, Zinjin Golden Ridge Limited. Please join us. We have Sri Sushma Gulapali, who is the head of mining at B5 Plus. We also have Madam Prisla Nchibuesiako, Contract Administrator, Local Content at the Petroleum Commission. We have Kamal Sulemana, Lead Category Manager for Newmont. And we also have Mary Asante Asamoah from Barbex. Can we give a round of applause to all of our panel members as they join us? Mr. Edu-Baini will take over from this point. Sorry, yeah, no, you can use this one. Yes. Oh, okay, from here, when you say it.
Hello, good morning. And Chairman and all guests present here, I respectfully wish to stand on established protocols and then introduce this session. The session title is Localizing Mining Supply Chains, Opportunities for SMEs and Ensuring Quality and Standards in Local Procurement. Well, over the period from yesterday up to today, we have discussed topics related to policies and regulations. We have discussed partnerships and collaborations. We've also talked about JVs and innovative financing and investments. I wish to say that all these topics have direct impact on the activities that occur within the mining industry and their collaboration with business partners that are suppliers and contractors. As we say in Tree, agronomifo. So today we're going to have a conversation, and because between the mouth, in the mouth we have the teeth and the tongue. Even though they stay in the same location, we occasionally have friction between them. But today is not a battle. It is actually a systematic collaboration that we're going to see over here, where we're going to have people showing or demonstrating perspectives as to how they can face the challenges that they are encountering in their operations, and then come out with solutions that will attempt to close the gaps, and then based on that, we can then move on. Let me set the context by saying that it is not as if we don't have any partnerships or collaboration going on in the mining industry. We do. And that is evidenced by the procurement spend that is published by the Chamber of Mines and then the Minerals Commission, as provided through the captive markets, which is determined through the procurement list, drawing its source from LI 2431. But then, today we're looking at how we can enhance and strengthen localization through value addition and then manufacturing. And that is the core of the issue and also the question that defines the elephant in the room. So the question now, which my panelists will be talking about, is how can locally sourced goods, locally manufactured and services consistently meet international benchmarks for quality and safety sustainable? So I will take my seat and then I'll begin to engage.
Let me just execute this administrative adjustment very briefly. One of our representatives will have to catch an early flight and so may not stay until the end of this particular panel session, but I don't want her to miss out on the group photograph for this particular panel. And so respectfully, I would ask if we can please rise together and do the photo session at this point, and then I'll do a little rearrangement of positions. So photo crew, if you can please do this for me, I'll be grateful. Thank you very much. And so everybody will take over with the panel.
All right. So welcome, team. As I've already indicated in my opening statement, there are challenges that are faced by both the mining companies and also suppliers and contractors. And without being specific, I would want any of you from the mining industry to begin to talk about or list some of the challenges, and then also subsequent to that, so those of you from suppliers and then contractors also list those challenges, because I do believe that if we are able to address these challenges and identify the gaps, then that will pave the way for effective collaboration and partnerships, particularly for those that are into manufacturing and the challenges that some of you face. So, Ajua and Kamal, may I start with you, Ajua?
All right, thank you, Clifford. With respect to the challenges we face, I'll start with the goods, which is quality. Now, for a mining company, the quality is really important to us. So if we are not meeting the quality, we would like to understand why. Now, most of the suppliers do not have access to funding. Quality comes at a cost. You need to invest in the QA/QC process to be able to get the quality that you desire. And because most of our suppliers do not have access to funding, they are not able to make that investment. So that's one of the key challenges we have with respect to goods. The next one is unreliable delivery times. Now, we plan with whatever delivery time you give us. So if we have planned that our production is going to give us X because we are expecting our inputs by a particular time and we don't get it, what happens is that we lose out on production. Eventually, it impacts revenue.
So you are speaking about quality and also unreliable delivery times, which is very key. Kamal, do you have any other challenges to add?
Okay, so I think within the mining industry, and as it had been mentioned before, one key factor that we don't really compromise on is the safety. So as much as possible, the safety standards for every single mine is high. So for most of our service providers, expectation is that safety should be a top notch. And at any point in time when safety is compromised by any entity, knowing very well the level of safety the regulators have set for us, we definitely will be reconsidering our notes and thinking that, look, such an entity which is not safety conscious means that the entity is not ready to work on the mine. So that is one key thing that we also see as a challenge, working with some of our local entities. And skill set. Skill set is another factor. For some reason, people are trained, and before you realize, they get other offers somewhere. For some of our business partners, they leave and then they have to replace with another individual. Eventually, the next set of people joining may be, half baked to perform those particular functions. It ends up giving us some kind of substandard output out of these particular services that they render to us. So these are some of the challenges on top of what Adjoa just mentioned.
Thank you. On the part of the suppliers, Mary,
all right,
what are some of your key challenges?
I'm listening to the mines, and we understand you're talking how do you reduce supply risk. You're talking about quality. The regulator is talking about why are we moving slowly to manufacturing. It's all good stuff. But for the support services, we're asking where is the money to do the work? Because we say the spirit is willing, but the pocket is shaky, right? And I think one of the key challenges for suppliers is access to capital. If we'll be honest, when it comes to mining, it's capital intensive. You can get a contract and the money you're supposed to bring up front is in the millions. And you need capital for it. The banks see you as high risk. You want to do this, but even in terms of payment cycles with the mines, it's unpredictable, it's long. And so it's very tricky. Just having access to capital can really stall it. It's not a case of the opportunities don't exist, but we have the capacity to deliver. That's a problem. You're talking about standards. We understand. We want to be world-class. We are not trying. We understand that you have shareholders and you want to make sure that things are done a certain way. And we also want to brag that, hey, I'm meeting the standard, I'm ISO certified, I'm this. But all that takes money. It's really, again, capital intensive. And so if we're talking local content and if we want to help these local companies to move up, I think that's one key thing that we need to look at, access to capital and just making sure that you help us become world-class, because I don't think our standard is Ghana and meeting your benchmark. We want to do more than that. So I'll leave Shushma to give the other options, but I'm sure we'll talk about the solutions, so it doesn't seem like I'm only talking about problems.
Thank you. Shushma, B5 has just commenced production of grinding balls. And I think you are just on the verge of either commissioning your new facilities. Can you tell us, you've been in this business for such a long time. Can you tell us some of the challenges that you have faced and the emphasis that you would face with regard to production? And that's where we all want to go. Value addition, manufacturing, and then production, mining inputs.
Thank you, Clifford. Before actually I speak to answer to your question, my colleagues over here, mining colleagues, has given me warning before going to the stage. Sushma, we are warning you, be careful. But don't worry, I'm being very diplomatic. Good morning, everyone. As Clifford, as Adjoa was raised, Kamal was raising the problem of quality, availability, then the other matters. Adding to Mary, even you have quality, even you have quantities, capacities, and even you have finance, I will always say from past 7 years, same thing is communication and support between the manufacturer and mines. It is very important. See, everybody makes the same fufu, everybody makes the same rice, but not everybody's taste is same. So sometimes, even though the factory is producing the standard production, there maybe is not according to the mine standard. So communication between the mine and the manufacturer is very important. Don't give up on any manufacturer at the first doorstep. That is very, very important. If the manufacturer has to grow in Ghana especially, because especially I'll talk about grinding media. We are now 3 factories which can feed whole West Africa. Whole West Africa, I'm not talking about Ghana. Ghana is even only 30%, which can feed Ghana. But how much are we getting support from the mines? Every mine would love to have their own blanket, which is a safe blanket. But please, we need support from the Commission and everybody.
Thank you. I think you've got a lot, and this is setting the tone for this conversation. So Ajwa spoke about safety and quality. Kamal, you talked about, remind me, sorry. Yes, lead time. You talked about lead time. Kamal spoke about safety. You have dwelt so much on capital, and then Shushma is talking about communication. You're going to have opportunity to elaborate more, and then obviously when we get to the time that we will throw in and invite the audience, I think we'll have a more multilateral conversation. But Priscilla from Petroleum Commission. So you are wearing the hat of the regulator. Okay. So tell me, these are challenges that suppliers and contractors are facing, and mining industry is also facing. From the perspective of the regulator, what do you think needs to be done in terms of your opening remarks, to try and then close the gaps that have been identified? Because we're talking about an ecosystem, and the regulator is very key in driving the sustainability of the ecosystem.
Thank you very much. I think all that they've said regards to the gaps or challenges with suppliers or in the industry very much pertains in the oil and gas industry as well. Capital is one key thing companies, particularly indigenous Ghanaian companies, face in obtaining capital in the industry. If you realize we have high interest rates, that makes them very uncompetitive even if they go for loans. In terms of equipment and contracts that are being awarded are in high values. How are you going to get this capital? What our LI or the industry actually has is the local content fund. Although not yet operational, but I think my colleague made mention yesterday that this is supposed to provide funding for indigenous Ghanaian companies as well as personnel or Ghanaians to be able to develop their capacity, get the requisite sources of funds at very low interest rates to be able to meet the demands in the industry. They talked about technical capacity, which I said is the same in our industry. When we started the industry, we realized that most of the companies couldn't meet the standards and requirements in the industry. These are mostly international standards, best practices, and the cost of obtaining certification is quite high. Sometimes even the companies do not know what kind of requirements or certifications they need to be able to even meet those requirements. From our perspective and what we've done, we continuously organize workshops together with certification bodies as well as operators to educate companies about the requirements in the industry, to the extent that some of the operators pick companies, help them to be able to get the requisite certifications or meet the requisite standards. Again, from our perspective regarding technical capacity, if we look at contracting, what we've put in place is, even though companies may not meet the requisite certifications, we ring-fence scopes, which are quite lower requirements for local companies to participate. In doing so, I remember one of the projects which was under the OCT project. There were a lot of fabrication companies, but we were deliberate in picking an upcoming fabrication company and then supported them with a project manager who then worked them to getting the requisite certification whilst they were executing the contract. And we believe these are things that can be done by the industry, by the regulator, to support companies to build the needed capacity to meet the requirements of the big mining companies, the multinationals, the manufacturing companies.
Excellent. Shushma, you have been always talking about, and you've actually mentioned it today, about lack of communication, which means that mining companies may experience some deficiency and then they would want to quietly exit their relationship without any prior communication or information to you. Tell us, can you share, without mentioning any mining company's name, because we're looking for practical solutions and recommendations, can you share some of these and then what you think your recommendations will be?
This one is, you're directly putting me in front of lion. So as I was telling the same thing, I had a very bad experience. This one particular, I'm sorry if these representatives are here. I know you can get it immediately. This particular mine, I was working with them for good 6 years and full-fledged 4 years. And you see, everybody will get a quality problem. Even it is a perfect person. Somewhere and somewhere, I'll tell good first. Like, let's take Goldfields. I'm very happy to work with them. God willing, I'm still with them and I pray to be with them. But it's a one company who always supports. When you have problem, they don't run away. They make us to sit with the technical team and metallurgy team and they sort it out on table instead of running away. That is the best part of the Goldfields we had till now. And the same way we were working with another company and another mining company for good years. And during the pandemic time and other times, we were with them like partners. Forget about purchasing or whatever contracts. Suddenly they had first time problem and they made us and the next day I didn't even talk. I saw the problem, I replaced 100% free of cost and I get to know next month I'm no more with them. What I'm saying is this is the communication. You have problem and you yourself, you are sending us report that the next consignment which I gave you was very good. And why is out? Is it financial problem or is it the same technical problem? That's what I'm saying. It's always a communication. And I always tell that this one, you see, when you use anybody's product long term, then only you will know the sweetness of it.
Right. So, in your case, first of all, you are willing to replace for free the consignment that experience that quality issue. So to mining companies that are here, those who do not have the capacity to undertake that kind of replacement. Come on. What will be your decision regarding that?
So, you see, in mining, there are certain things that are very critical in the operation. In fact, I'm not a typical miner or a metallurgist, but I think that if there are product defects that leads to some decisions, negative decision with respect to a particular supplier, as Shushma did mention, there's a need for such communications to happen. But it is equally important to know the extent to which that problem impacted the mining entity. That could cause some inconveniences operationally and even from safety perspective. I know there had ever been, a safety-related theme on the grinding media where the balls were popping, and that became a very serious safety issue. I'm sure, Shushma, this is not your your boss anyway, but the balls were popping, and it created serious safety concern. So depending on how the mine sees it, it could cause for such relationship to get bad. But it is equally important for the mines to really sit down with the local entity to tell them all what is expected of them, and then the bad nature of the input, so that in the end they go back and improve on it, but not to until the assessment of their product is validated by so many bodies, then they can get back, but not to close the gate for them and to say that no more business for them. So it is something that the mining and then the supplier will have to sit together and really close, but not to close gate for each other.
So you are proposing that when you have some of these quality or safety issues, there should be some kind of engagement with the local supplier, or for that matter, contractor. Identify the issues and then develop some plan to fix the gaps that have been identified.
Perfectly.
So Adwa, you are heading Zijin Mine, which used to be part of Maymont. Would you recommend that some of these risk mitigation issues will be well crafted in the contract to protect both the mine and the supplier or contractor?
Thank you. I'll start by saying that quality has to be planned. Shushma mentioned that even if you are working with a contractor, it's likely that you could actually have a batch that will fail. But if you are working closely with that contractor and you are involved in that contractor's business, the mining company would be aware of all the robust processes that the particular input goes through. It gives the mining company some confidence. Now, when this happens, what the mining company would do, in Zijin usually will even call for an independent third-party testing so that we know what we have to do. So if we are working with a contractor and you already know the output of the contractor with respect to performance, it's not difficult. And so because of that, if you are going into a contract, your question is whether you should put it in the contract. You would have specified in the contract what the particular input specification should be, you would have called this out in the contract. And you would have indicated how you, with respect to ensuring quality, how you expect that the input actually meets the required quality at every point in time. But it's going to be quite difficult to explicitly say that, or explicitly state in the contract that where there is a defect, the client, which is the mining company, will still stay. Why do we say that? Because that defect has to be rectified. And we need the commitment from the contractor that the defect will be rectified. I did mention that we are a mining company, we have employees, we need the revenue to be able to pay our salaries. We need the revenue to be able to support with taxes. So at every point in time, you want to make sure whatever you state in the contract will still enable you work, get your revenue, and address your fixed costs as well as your profits. So for a mining company, it's going to be quite difficult to explicitly state in the contract that if the specifications are not met, we are going to stay. However, if we are working together, we know that we can actually go through that process and still find a solution to rectify it. Because if we state in the contract that we will stay and the defect happens and the contractor is not committed to rectifying the defects, the contractor does not have the capital to even rectify the defects, change processes, what it means is that now you have to go into a legal battle. And I think that is quite difficult to handle. Yeah.
So, Mary, listening to our team from the mining companies, you can see clearly that this links up to capacity. And then when we talk about capacity, obviously, all the issues that you spoke about, particularly with access to capital, because if you don't have capital, you cannot proceed to invest to rectify the defects that have been identified. So, in your view, what will be the next step to take, to resolve, so that you will still be in business and continue to be in the good books of the mining company?
I like how Adwa said, we cannot state it. Adwa, you can state it and put some conditions, please. All right, but see, they all agree. Please state it and put conditions but you must be willing to do this or that. Let's put it all there. We won't go into legal battle. We just want clear contracts. Thank you. All right. So I spoke about financing, and I think it's one key thing. How can we fix that? Personally, one of my major issues or concerns is even when you're going for loans. Currently, the mines are being safe. So if they're giving you a contract, it's 2 years, 1 year. It's very short because you're testing us, maybe. But it makes it very difficult to plan long term. I mean, if you're trying to build a manufacturing plant or do something with huge investment, nobody's willing to give you that opportunity, right? So maybe we can look at extra long-term contracts for certain things. If we've agreed that we're doing local content and we want to do this activated carbon, whatever those things are, let's make it long-term contracts so that the financiers can also be confident or open enough to give the funds. Then I think it's also important to look at special instruments for suppliers. The Chamber of Mines did a positive thing. We had, Clifford, I think you were on that committee where we created the special financing for supply chain. Yes.
I was a chairman.
You were, yes, true. ABSA was on there with CAL and Republic Bank. But those are the things that we need. Key packages for suppliers where we're getting extra low interest rates, because we are all building this together, we are all in this together. So if we are talking local content, you don't want to charge us 20 this when you want to be part of the story. So then reduce the interest rate so that we have access to capital. So these are some of the things. If we can have credit guarantees, even from the central bank, like things that would de-risk lending from commercial banks, all that will make it easier for us to have this capital and make this work. It takes everyone being a part of it. I don't think it's up to the mines or to the users. If we want this as a Ghana story, then certainly everybody should be on board. And in the case of standardization, I think also that it'll be important. I mean, the technical team was here, so I don't need to talk much. We heard the things they said, but all these bodies need to come together and ensure that we're building a world-class facility, building systems that would outlive us. And I think together we can change the story for Ghana. Thank you.
Excellent. So, Priscilla.
Yes, I just wanted to add something. When Adjoa said they can't put it in the contract, which, yes, I agree with you. However, you should know that local content comes with a cost. You have to be deliberate to develop local companies. They will not build their capacities in the air. Somebody must pick them up and walk the talk with them. And in our industry, there are specific major companies who have picked companies in the chemical industry, in the fabrication industry, where they had nothing. They pick them, help them, whether financially, technically, whichever gap that exists, and take them to. There's one story of a company that was given access, funding for a vessel. The company was not meeting the requirements, and the clients could have easily said, let me find somebody else to do it, but they walked the journey with them. And if you really want to develop companies, local companies, you have to walk the talk.
Fantastic. Okay, you want to.
All right, sure. Priscilla and Mary, I totally agree with you. Maybe I need to throw some more light on it. In Zijin, we actually pick contractors, work with them. For the first time last year, we dared to sew our uniforms in the community. It wasn't a walk in the park. We had to work with the suppliers. They bring the samples. Sometimes it doesn't meet the specification, but we went through the process. So we have the patience. We know that we need to persevere. And the uniform story is an example. And because of that, we are continuing with 2026 uniforms as well. What I meant is to explicitly state that we will not continue where there is a defect. Because Kamal did mention that one of the challenges we have is where the people leave the business. It's one of the challenges with promoting local content. Some of the businesses evolve around just one person. If the person is not there, a decision cannot be made. So it's quite difficult to even guarantee the sustainability of the business. And we have such challenges now. There are production issues, and it's difficult to get the decision makers to come together and have a conversation with you on time. So we are actually doing that, but to protect ourselves, that's what I'm saying, to protect ourselves, we will not state it, but we have clear examples of how we have persevered and groomed our contractors to be able to deliver at that point once they come to the party.
Thank you. I think yesterday this issue came up about, come on, I'll get to it, but just one comment. This issue came up about the structure of our SMEs, which basically are run on sole proprietorship basis, and they're not willing to partner with other local companies to provide the same or similar portfolio of services and products. I think it's an issue that I believe the Minerals Commission was here yesterday, and it does not confer confidence in the user of the products and services. I've had the experience in the recent past where we had to terminate a contract because the contractor was nowhere to be found when a challenge. And after several emails, even the emails bounced back, and the contract had to be cancelled and then awarded to somebody else who had demonstrated the capacity and the capability to do so. So that is one big issue. I don't know how legislation is going to help resolve it. If we are saying that mining companies should list on the stock exchange, can we also think about how, if we can scale up through restructuring our local SMEs, getting some of them to come together so that they can pool their resources and then be able to do good and bigger things. Yesterday there was a presentation of a company in Takrady, two small companies that have come together and are producing specialty chemicals. So this is a typical example. And those of you audience out there, I think you should take a cue from what is happening, that the time for sole proprietorship is gradually ebbing away. Come on, you have it.
Okay, so I just wanted to add to what Priscilla did mention from the mining perspective and how we support businesses to actually become very competitive in areas that they would have struggled. Per Mincom regulatory requirements, a very strong business partner needed to leave the shores of them. And with all the technologies that they had, everything, they had to leave. And the services they were providing for us, we needed to kind of tender it and get somebody to be able to do that work. We did that. And lo and behold, the technology that was being used and recommended for that particular service was a bit minimal in the country. So we had to support the successful bidders to be able to acquire that kind of technology. Even some of these particular work had to delay. The business agreed with that. They were able to acquire the technology. We supported them both in terms of finances and even to guarantee certain things with their bankers to get to a point where they could execute the job. So these are some of the things that as a mine we do support.